Hello, everybody. Apologies for the slightly late, delayed start to our Game Week 13 deadline live stream. It was the old Windows updates, wasn't it, Ben, that waylaid us?
Yes, technical gremlins, as always happens on a Friday. But the main thing is, Jason, we're here now. We're here and it matters.
Yes.
So,
We're reunited after the international break. It waylaid us as well. Really didn't enjoy that. Oh my God, the England games were so boring. But we don't have to talk about that anymore because the Premier League is back and there is so many injury discussions to go through. So, Ben, I'm not going to delay any further. Let's start off with Bournemouth.
yeah, a couple of talking points. Philip Billen missed out against Newcastle. Of course, the Cherries beat the 2-0 on the night, and deservedly so. But Philip Billen back from a thigh injury. However, the victory was soured by the loss of Max Aarons. Now, that was a hamstring problem at the time. Didn't look too serious. However, it looks as if it is a little bit more serious than first thought, and the fullback is expected to miss at least a few months, so out for the remainder of the year. Adam Smith is the player who will come in right back to deputise. Of course, he's a player that is well versed to play in that position. I think he got his 350th appearance against Newcastle last time out from the bench, so a like-for-like swap, not too bad. And yeah, Bournemouth supporters, we hope that they continue in the same sort of vein.
And we go on to Arsenal, and there's a few changes in the team. Some of it is enforced due to injuries, so like up top, but also we've got the interesting goalkeeping situation where obviously Arsenal are playing Brentford and Raya can't play against them. So yeah, what is your thinking behind this 11, Ben?
Yeah, so we know Ben White's been struggling with that muscle problem that kept him out of game week 12. And he hasn't trained fully. Decision, Mikel Arteta, he's a guy that plays his cards very close to his chest. And he said a decision would be made over the next sort of 24 hours. I just think in terms of that time on the training pitches and being ready, he may fall just a little bit short. And Mikel Arteta has spoke about the importance of Tomiyasu and wanting him to remain at the club. He sees him as a vital part of that squad. So I just think, given the circumstances around that, I think Tomiyasu keeps his place at right back. In midfield, we've got a couple of options in there. More so that we see, I do expect a return of Martin Ødegaard. He did not feature during the international break for Norway. There had been a management of an ongoing hip problem. We thought that was the concern that kept him out of the last 3 games for Arsenal, 2 of those being in the Premier League, 1 in the Champions League, but it wasn't. He actually suffered or sustained a concussion prior to that Newcastle match. And that was something which was being monitored and evaluated on a daily basis. And there were hope that he would return game week 11 or possibly even game week 12, but that didn't quite happen. So, but he is back in pushing for a place. But again, do I think he starts maybe after missing, around about a month on the sidelines? Maybe not. That would be the one that you could probably look at and think it is a 50-50 call. So I'm just edging towards the fact that it is just a little bit of match sharpness, a little bit of fitness, and that's why I haven't went with Odegaard. Gabriel Jesus played his first competitive minutes for Brazil during the week. He actually played the full match. That game went on to about the 95th, 96 minutes. Came through that absolutely no problem. So I do expect him to return to the matchday squad, but I think Leandro Trossard deserves to retain his place. Had a decent little run out for Belgium over the break and also scored against Burnley, so performing quite well. And like I say, Gabriel Jesus, minutes from the bench as he builds up fitness following that hamstring problem.
And, Marius has said it as well. A question I wanted to ask, why haven't you put Havertz at left back? That's how he featured for Germany. He scored a goal from there. Obviously, that's his best position.
Well, who knows? I mean, who knows how Mikel Arteta will set up his team on Sunday? Like I say, Martin Ødegaard is one of the ones that could come in and Havertz may drop out.
But not at left
Yeah.
back. Not yet.
Well, no, I can't see mousing Zinchenko from that spot.
So let's continue over to Aston Villa. And a lot of people are kind of seeing this as not a good game week for them. But I fancy them against Spurs. However, what is the latest injury news? Because a lot of people are concerned about the fitness of Matty Cash.
The Matty Cash, it was a bit of an innocuous one. There was no official update from the club, as in Aston Villa, but he was withdrawn from international due to suggest that was a problem with a shoulder injury that had happened prior to the break, and it was more of a management issue. So I don't expect it to be any major concerns or worries with regards to the fitness of Matty Cash. However, there are lots of red flags elsewhere within the squad, namely man of the moment and informed player John McGinn. He was helped off the pitch for Scotland against Norway. That was a knee problem. Returned to the club. Bodymore Heath on Thursday, was rested, but he has trained today. So barring a reaction, he should be okay. But Unai Emery will run the rule over Zaniolo, Leon Bailey. We know that Bertrand Traore has picked up an injury during the break, and there's also a slight question mark over goalkeeper Emi Martinez. All of those players were described as having some slight discomfort. Again, nothing too serious. It's more just with regards to a decision on whether to start or not. That's why I've got Martinez in. But I think Tielemans on the left-hand side ahead of Zaniolo and Bailey was my first thought. And then given that recent update, then I'm even more confident that Tielemans is going to start on that left-hand side.
Just, with Scottish injury news, is it hard sometimes, you've described him as having a knee injury, but, with the Scottish accent, they go on, his knee going on tonight. So, how do you understand it? They're saying, I've got no injury or that I've got a knee injury?
Jason, I cannot understand you half the time, man. The Scotland, that's like my local dialect, more or less, so that's like the mother tongue.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have no problem understanding, people north of the border. It's when you get past Middlesbrough, I start to struggle.
Us Southerners are the problem. That's what it is. You're the true bastions of English. Let's go over to Brentford, though, a Southerner team. What is the latest with the Bees?
Yeah, big game for Brentford, this one. As we typically see with Thomas Frank, he likes to go with a 3-5-2 on away games or teams against those big six. But with it being at home against Arsenal, I tied with that 3-5-2 or a 4-3-3. And a setback for Nathan Collins also, made me mind up with regards to this. He's picked up an ankle ligament problem. That's going to put him out for weeks. We did see the return of Ben Mee in game week 12. So it looks as if it's been tailor-made for a 4-4-3. 4-3-3. I mean, they might do with a 4-4-3, but with Neil Maupay coming back into the attack, Thomas Frank had said he's been a little bit unfortunate to drop out the start 11 recent times, and got his goal. He is looking a lot sharper, and he has been performing really well in training. If there was to be any slight tweaks in this, I have Janelt there on the left-hand side. Mads Roerslev is an option, but again, he's a player that we tend to see really in that 3-5-2, more of an attacking wing back.
Marius is particularly excited because he said the return of the Mee, but he also asked, is Martinez a doubt? So just going back there quickly to Aston Villa, I guess we'll talk more, especially with Liverpool, with the amount of South American contingent in their 11. But yeah, what is your feelings on South American players? Are they going to be rested, or does it not matter? Because, we've discussed it before, they fly back maybe in a private jet. They'll kind of be whisked straight to wherever they need to be. It's not like us if we went on travelling.
Yeah, I mean, the majority of those South American players have actually returned and rejoined the group on Thursday, so that's absolutely fine. And when we're talking about the Aston Villa game, they have that additional recovery day anyway, so they're not playing until Sunday. Emi Martinez was one of those players mentioned by Unai Emery. He's come back with a little bit of a niggle, a little bit of discomfort. With it being Emi Martinez and with him being a goalkeeper, I'm not as concerned. I would be very, very surprised if he wasn't involved and started on Sunday.
There you go. So moving from Brentford to Brighton, what is the latest with them? I think they've had a big boost with Ferguson having some minutes for the Republic of Ireland.
In short, it's absolute carnage. And I'm going to temper that enthusiasm for Evan Ferguson, because yes, he did go into the Irish camp carrying a little bit of a back problem, got some minutes around about 55, but there was then forced off because of injury against the Netherlands. And that was a hamstring related issue. However, he has been seen on the training pitches on Thursday, and it looks as if he's going to be fine. But a word of caution, and something that we always like to bang the drum about, just because you see footage, images, videos of players on training pitches, you never get a true sense of really what's happening. And that's exactly what we found out with Karim Mitoma. He was withdrawn from the recent internationals, but the club posted out on their socials Mitoma running out to the training pitches on Thursday, and for Mitoma owners, that was a little bit of a boost. The expectation was that he was going to play this weekend. However, he's been ruled out of the game. He will not be available for that. So that's going to cause a little bit of problems in that Seagulls lineup. We have an extensive list, which is already missing the likes of Solly Marsh, Danny Welbeck. The good news is Lewis Dunk is back in contention. He's okay. He was one of 3 players who picked up injuries in the Europa League win over Ajax, the other being James Milner. He's ruled out. And of course, Purvis Estupinan, he came on, introduced as a substitute, returning from a hamstring problem, lasted around about 10 minutes. Now, unfortunately, we're looking at another significant spell on the sidelines. I'd be very, very surprised if he returned before the end of this year.
It's not good for the Seagulls at the moment. Do you say the C word though, or is it not quite that far yet?
They're pushing towards that. I mean, they're certainly not in the realms of a Newcastle United.
Oh, well, we will get to them in a minute because we're on the Clarets of Burnley. Not much interest in them in terms of Premier League, but what is the latest for them?
Yeah, Vincent Kompany didn't say a great deal, in all honesty. There's potential that Manuel Benson and Ekdal could return to the squad. They've been building up minutes and fitness with the under-21s. But elsewhere, El Dakil is a player who's sort of dropped off the face of the earth in recent times. Certainly no mention from Vincent Kompany of an injury. Wasn't involved for the Belgium squad, so we don't know if that's been tactical or there is a problem. One of those players that dropped off and suddenly reappeared is Jack Cork. He picked up an injury in training. That was beginning of the month. Vincent Kompany confirms that, and once again, he's out. Lyle Foster, obviously a lot of questions with regards to the striker, with regards to his well-being. Nothing to report officially. There's certainly no time frame on a return. The club insists that he's in the best hands. They're not thinking about anything to do with football. They just wish him a speedy recovery, and when he's better, he will obviously be coming back into consideration.
Yeah, and that's a good point to make. That's a sort of situation that transcends football. And we have talked about it. Actually, we did. You shared my post this week about men's health. My uncle's actually made an application for it. You can get it on your iPhones and things like that. Check out my Twitter. But it is a huge thing for young men like ourselves, Ben. It's the biggest killer of people in our age group, and so the fact that a big Premier League star is talking about mental health issues is very important, I think. So, yeah, let's continue over to Chelsea. What is the latest at Stamford Bridge?
Yeah, Chelsea been in a decent run of late, and of course they arrive on Tyneside on Saturday, so it's a tough game for our boys. As while their injury problems seem to be, easing slightly, ours are getting a lot worse. We have seen the return of Levi Colwill this week, and also Male Gusto, who was withdrawn from the French under-21 squad. That was a tendon problem. Levi Colwill's the only one really that's going to be threatening for a start. I have him as being the only change from the draw with Man City. He's recovered from that shoulder injury, and unfortunately it looks as if Mark Cucurella would be the player that would miss out.
And so, I guess we'll talk about it more with the Newcastle game. But how do you feel for it? Are you positive, negative, worried? I guess we need to talk through your injury situation. In fact, we'll keep that because obviously that will give more context to it. We'll go to Crystal Palace and then we'll get on to the Newcastle discussion in a moment. So yeah, what's happening with the Eagles?
Yeah, not much change. Generally, the Eagles squad is pretty fit and healthy. A couple of late returners in Jefferson Lerma and Jordan Ayew, but neither of those players are carrying any knocks on the Eagles. So it's just purely a case of, they haven't had much time on the training pitches under Roy Hodgson. I'm making one change here, and it is a little bit of a gamble. I am throwing Michael Elise back in there. Of course, he had several months on the sidelines following surgery on his hamstring. I have brought him into the team. We've seen how Eberici Eze has, been integrated and performed really well since he's coming back. It would be Will Hughes as the player who would miss out, in my opinion, if Elise is selected in that starting 11.
And is that because you think that this is a winnable game for Crystal Palace against Luton? And also maybe a confidence booster for Elise, get him some minutes, maybe an assist or something, and bring him off early?
I mean, all of the above. If you're going to get, give a player minutes, he's had another couple of weeks of training under his belt. So, he's been training more or less with the squad now for a month. And, if you want to get that little, improve that sharpness, improve that match fitness, build up that confidence, then you're going to be targeting the games of the likes of Luton for potentially picking up 3 points, and you're going to need somebody with that creative edge and that spark and that ability to unlock doors, and Elise has that in bucketfuls.
Now let's go over to the Toffees. Calvert-Lewin leading the line. He's been such a difference since he has returned, but do you think that they can get a rare win against Manchester United?
It wouldn't surprise me to what's going on, at Old Trafford at the moment under Erik ten Hag. I think he's hanging on there, by the skin of his teeth. They managed to grind out another lucky result against Luton, 1-0. I think it was back in game week 12. We've seen it on numerous occasions this season. That's probably kept him in a job. Sean Dyche is doing a fantastic, turn things around at Goodison, and of course have been hit with that 10-point deduction. Now that'll probably look to galvanise the team. I still think they'll be, more than okay. I think they've done, the signs that we've seen in recent weeks. The squad's come together really well. Injuries, there's no major issues. They'll need to keep Calvert-Lewin, fully fit and firing, because, like you say, he does make a massive difference. The only change that I can foresee really here is Amadou Onana. He's been managing that calf problem for a while now, withdrawn from the Belgium squad. So I have Idrissa Gueye coming in alongside James Garner.
With the situation at Everton as well going into this match, a lot of people will be saying, oh, Man United are in good form. But if you look at the actual underlying data, Everton over the last 5 games, they have a better goal difference and expected goal difference. So, like you say, I wouldn't be, surprised if actually Everton get the win, cause a so-called upset, when actually Everton have been looking better, playing better than Manchester United at the moment. Fulham are up next. Again, another team that is quite struggling like Manchester United. Is there any boosts in the team, though, in terms of injury news?
Not really. Nothing sort of massively major in terms of personnel. We saw the return of Adama Traore in game week 12, and that was a boost, but it proved to be a bit of a false dawn because he suffered a setback and he's back in the treatment room for the Cottagers, so he's out of contention. The Fulham have lost Palina. He's picked up his 5th caution of the campaign, so he's out of contention. I have Harrison Reed, who'd sit alongside Iwobi at this, but Sasa Lukic is another option if Marco Silva wants to change things up. Great to see Raul Jimenez on the score sheet last time out. That's probably enough for him to keep that striking role. Of course, he's vying for a place with Carlos Vinicius at the moment, with Rodrigo Muniz sidelined with a knee problem. Toysin Adebayor, or just Toysin to his friends, he is injury free, but like I say, he's been out for almost 3 months now, so it's not a player that I would expect to come straight back into that starting 11.
You and Toyson go way back, don't you? Best buds.
All the way.
Liverpool are up next, and obviously this one, a lot of people have got interest in, as you said there. people maybe don't need to worry about the international break affecting the 11 because you've got McAllister, you've got Nunez in there, and you've got Alisson in between the sticks. Yeah, give us your analysis on the team, because this is one of the headliner games, not just of the weekend, but of the season. This is against Manchester City, and this is probably maybe the best team that they could field, apart from maybe Gravenberch, but apart from that, and obviously Robertson, this is a good-looking Liverpool team, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the positions on those left-hand side, there's maybe one or two up for grabs. We've seen Joe Gomez deployed at left-back recently with Kostas Tsimikas making way. Now, there was a little bit of concern with regards to his fitness after he dropped out of the Greece squad this week, but that was more of a management issue because he's only one booking away from suspension, and the general feeling was, they didn't want to risk him in that game and, then rule that out of a potential playoff game. So Tsimikas is absolutely fine. Left-hand side of midfield, we've had Gravenberch there, we've got Gakpo, and we've also had Curtis Jones. Now, those other two players have been managing knee and hamstring problems respectively, which is why I'm keeping in Gakpo. And Nunez, he's been on fire for both club and country. I think he got 3 goals during the break. Back on the training pitches on Thursday. So again, lots of time for that recovery. Similarly, Alexi McAllister, he's back after serving a 1-match ban. Goalkeeper-wise, I'm never too worried about, Alisson and those goalkeepers who've travelled far, because, it's not a position where they're really sort of high roll and load and high exertion. So that's not a problem. The other debatable position up for grabs is maybe whether Jurgen Klopp starts Ibrahima Konate or Joel Matip. Konate's coming off the back of another hamstring injury.
We do have a question from GV. He's saying, does Van Dijk still have enough to be able to stop Haaland from scoring? What do you think, Ben?
I mean, in theory, you can stop Haaland, for the most part, for 89, 90 minutes of a game, and he could still pop up with a couple, and time added on. He's just that type of striker. So we know, if he's not scoring, he tends not to get involved, doesn't touch the ball around, but his movement in and around that 18-yard box is absolutely superb. Post ACL, are we seeing the best that we've ever seen of Virgil van Dijk? No, but I do think he is getting a little bit better. We do know, that second and third season post-recovery is when you're hopefully back to somewhere near those consistent pre-injury levels. And Van Dijk, is good at this Liverpool, 2.0. I think it helps when you've got the likes of McAllister in there screening, and you've got that, that really sort of high pressing game of Liverpool back. So look, this is going to be a fantastic game. I think Liverpool are probably one of the only teams in the Premier League that can really go toe-to-toe with Manchester City and really attack them. So yeah, I'm expecting a good one.
Well, let's get over to Manchester City pretty quickly. We just have to go and leap to Luton for a minute or two. What is the latest?
For Luton, the big talking point is around Ogbonne, voted. He's been this season's fastest Premier League player, which came as a little bit of a surprise there. Did not see that. But he has been managing ankle and hamstring problems, so that ruled him out of recent nationals. Hasn't trained at all, but Rob Edwards is very reluctant to rule him out. I probably will make the change with regards to this. Anybody else? I'm not really sure that anybody's interested, unfortunately, in anybody else within this team. Maybe, in Andros Townsend. He's come in, I think he's on a short-term contract around about 3 months. So he's a player who is really playing for his future, and he's done really well since his arrival. The Hatters on a little bit of an upturn, certainly improved performances and results.
Yes, and just to remind people, as you said there, you might change who is in the 11 there. This is a live working document, and Ben keeps up to date as much as possible as the ever-changing injury news comes in and out of clubs. And just, with that as well, if we don't answer your questions because we have to leave at 6 on the dot today, Ben will be on Twitter. He'll field some of your questions. You can leave questions below the video and we will try our best to get back to you. But let's go to the citizens here. And, despite them apparently not being in the best of form over the last 5 games, they've scored the most goals. They're up there with the XG. Haaland is still the Premier League top goal scorer. I wish a lot of clubs had this problem of not being in form and picking up that sort of output. So let's have a look at it then. What are the major changes to the team, if any?
No major changes in terms of this predicted lineup, but there are certainly a lot of talking points in and around this City team. Now, Pep Guardiola, as he always does on Friday afternoon, defaults to we have one more session, and it won't be until after that session will we know who's available and who's not. Now, going in to this game, we have question marks over Erling Haaland. He overstretched against the Faroe Islands, looked in quite a bit of discomfort, but this is an ankle injury that he continues to manage. The doctor in Norway said, it is very painful for the first 24 hours. Then it does settle down a little bit. He wasn't risked against Scotland. He did train for Manchester City on Thursday, but he wasn't 100%. So hopefully he'll come through that session. I think he starts without any question. He's just too much of a big player. And like I say, the injury itself, it's not as if it's a hamstring problem that you could, potentially risk you being out for a significant spell. It's something that they're aware of. No doubt it will be taped, it'll be strapped, it'll be fixed. They want to limit the roll of that ankle. And by roll, I mean, the inversion and eversion of the ankle. So I fully expect him to start elsewhere. Nathan Ake, he was a withdrawal from the Netherlands squad. And with the Champions League coming up, I just think Pep will not want to take too many risks, especially when he's got lots of personnel options in that back line. Who else we talking about? And Ederson picked up an injury late in that game against Chelsea. That was a foot problem. He was withdrawn from the Brazil squad. That's why Alisson featured. But again, I have Ederson start. I just think it's too much of an important fixture for Pep not to be playing some of those, big players for the club.
It's quite interesting as well that obviously Brazil choose Ederson over Alisson, even though the data suggests that Alisson is far the better goalkeeper. And just one thing, you've answered some of this on your recent Athletic live stream that you just came off of. And if people want to check that out, go over to the Athletic. It's still up there. Obviously, Ben can't answer the questions now, but you can ask some afterwards. Jeremy Doku is getting a lot of interest. People are wondering whether to get him into their FPL teams. He obviously got that fantastic Premier League record number of assists in one game. Is he fast becoming another one of those untouchables in the Pep Guardiola squad, or is that just, fanciful thinking? We know what Pep can do. We know what he does, and he will be well aware, obviously, with the December fixture schedule as well. He wants to keep his players fresh for that post, New Year run into the end of the season to lift as many trophies as possible. What do you feel on Jeremy Doku, basically?
Very good. Still very young, still adapting, still acclimating to the Premier League, to the rigours, to the demands, to the intensities. We're playing Premier League football. City, you've got Champions League football. So look, I expect a rotation. When you look at the depth and you look at the possibilities of Alvarez playing out there, Foden out there, Jack Grealish, not being a part of this starting 11. So I think it would be foolhardy to think that Doku would be a player that would be locked in and week out in the Premier League to start. Look, it's one of those, as with the majority of City players, you buy them, you bring them in, and the risk that's associated when you owning those types of players. If you're not spending too much money and you're not bothered about the outlay, then take the punt.
So we got about 7 minutes left, Ben. Manchester United up next. What is the latest on them?
Højlund potentially has trained, so barring a reaction, he might be involved, but that's a muscle injury, so it can never quite be 100%. That's why I have Martial starting, but I may change things as we go. Eriksen is out, Amrabat in, Casemiro obviously injured. Varane touted to leave in February, so he looks way down the pecking order, which is why we have Lindelof and Maguire. Luke Shaw will be included in the matchday squad, but again, I think it's around 3 months out. I don't see him starting, so it's Diego Dalot that switches flanks to the left with Aaron Wan-Bissaka starting on the right.
Now, continuing over, and this is the big one. You said Newcastle have so many injury issues, and we'll talk a little bit about that game against Chelsea. But, I mean, it's not just the Chelsea fixtures, it's fixtures going forward. Are you a little bit worried with the injury situation? I don't know if it's worth a C word here. But, yeah, what is the latest with the team?
Yeah, I mean, it is slightly concerning. And then you factor in the loss of Sandro Tonali and Lewis Hall for this game, who's ineligible against his parent club. Up top is the biggest concern. We know Alexander Isak should be there or thereabouts, although Eddie Howe was very coy on the availability of his striker. Didn't mention anything about Callum Wilson either. However, Chris Waugh from The Athletic did post something during the break suggesting that the Newcastle leading goal scorer may be out until mid-December at the earliest, around 4 to possibly 6 weeks, which would be a blow. That's why we have Anthony Gordon deputising in that central role. Miggy Almiron was past fit, which is great news. That was a slight hamstring problem. It's Bournemouth. The starting 11 here, Sean Longstaff is the biggest concern and the biggest worry. So he may be one that I would change out. Possibility of bringing in Lewis Miley. We certainly can't afford to have any more injuries to key players. I think, once or if that was to happen, then, I really think we would start to worry. We've got Champions League midweek. I'm not really sure how Eddie Howe's going to play things in terms of his team selection. But like I say, this as a starting 11, I'm happy. It's still relatively strong for me. Like I say, you lose another one of those players, another two, and then, I can see that really, really affecting our league form.
And just, with Kieran Trippier, he had to leave the England squad for personal reasons. Is that situation all sorted now?
All sorted, trained fully and trained well with the squad, so that's not going to be an issue for this weekend.
Good to hear. And I guess one last question with the Gordon situation. Do you see it as a positive that he's out of position, he has a potential to score more goals centrally, or do you think that actually, the fact that he is being pushed into the centre and also he doesn't have that network around him, Isaac and also Wilson were creating those runs into the box that allowed him space to either cut in or run to that back post. Do you see this as a positive or as a negative for him?
I mean, he's certainly not like an out-and-out goal scorer, say like a Callum Wilson. He's certainly cut from a different cloth, and he's going to give Newcastle a little bit of a more direct approach and a different option. It will help having Bruno Guimaraes back in the team. Certainly, he was suspended for that Bournemouth game. So I just don't know. Like I say, I think fatigue. We look really tired down at the Vitality. It was a really, really bad night, coupled with the performance wasn't great. So we'll be watching. I think this is a really tough game. Look, and I will admit, in the sweep, in my killer, I've actually went for Chelsea for the win.
Oh, that is a big revelation there, going against your own team. Nottingham Forest up next. Again, team not with too much interest, just kind of canter through that one because we obviously have a few more to get through, Ben.
Yeah, Womanly was the headliner, club's leading scorer. We know he'd been managing an ongoing groin problem. Unfortunately, he aggravated that on international duty. He's now had surgery, and we're probably looking towards 3 to 4 months on the sidelines.
Blumenek, that is a massive blow for Nottingham Forest. Sheffield United up next. Again, a team with not too much interest in them.
Yeah, Ollie McBurney straight in, managing an adductor problem. He's not going to be ready for 90 minutes, but I just think his importance to the team is enough to convince Paul Higginbottom that he deserves to be thrown back in. So it may be a slight tweak in the formation with a 3-5-2 alongside Cameron Archer.
Now, Tottenham up next, the team that has been hit hard by injuries, but also, the form of the team is going down a little bit. What is the latest for them?
Yeah, so this team lineup will be tweaked slightly. Destiny and Dougal has been past fit. He's trained really well, so I'm going to bring him back into the start 11. Question marks over Pape Sarr, which is a concern, particularly as East Basuma is suspended for this game. So that'd be a player that you may want to watch. Yeah, they're down to the bare bones as well, Tottenham. So it's going to be a difficult game for them. The team elsewhere pretty much picks itself. Like I say, they've got a good 10, 11 players currently out for this game. So there isn't a lot we can do with this team.
Yeah, there's not a lot to kind of rotate as well. You know, there's no Richarlison to go up top there and things like that. We're getting to the last two. West Ham, what is the latest there? I think a big one is obviously Bowen. A lot of people, isn't he starting? You've kind of said positives with David Moyes' comments?
I was sort of erring on the side of caution anyway with Jared Bowen. We know it was a precautionary withdrawal. There's a little bit of fluid on the knee there. The issue is that you don't know what caused that. It seemed to be a bit of an overuse or a bit of a strain. And it is possible that it could just be a need to, I forgot the word, get rid of the fluid in his knee. What is it? Aspirate his knee. Yes, which means basically take the fluid out of his knee, and all being well, manage that load, and he will be available. Late decision from David Moyes, which would be a good. Which would be a boost considering Mikel Antonio is out with a knee problem. Not as serious as Thursford, hopefully back within maybe 2 to 3 weeks.
You managed to aspirate the words there from the back of your mind. Yeah. Finally, Wolves. And we're literally going to wrap it up here, people. So unfortunately, we can't field any last minute questions. But obviously, just to remind you, do stay subscribed to the channel. Do tweet us if you have any urgent inquiries. But we're going to head into Wolves right now.
Yeah, just the one change I'm making, that's going to be enforced for Gary O'Neill. Craig Dawson picked up his 5th caution of the campaign in that win over Tottenham. That means there's a rare opportunity for the Spaniard Hugo Bueno to come in at left back. Totti moves more central alongside Max Kilman. Otherwise, I don't really see anything changing. Wolves have been in good form and decent nick of late. So, yeah, I'm expecting another good performance.
I'm much more of a fan of Hugo's brother Kinder. Much tastier player. Anyway, is that a good joke for you, Ben?
I think you just need to end the stream now.
Okay, I shall say goodbye to everybody. I hope people understand that joke as well. We will see you again next week and have a fantastic weekend. Happy and healthy time. And also just to end there as well, do check out Ben's tweet about the mental health application, or just get talking to friends. It's a great opportunity with Christmas coming up. Stay open with your conversations, and wish